Come into this place of peace, and let its silence heal your spirit. Come into this place of memory, and let its history warm your soul. Come into this place of prophecy and power, and let its vision change our hearts. Good morning. Good morning to you all, and welcome to our service here on April 18th, here at First Parish Church in Weston. My, what a difference a week does make, meteorologically speaking. It is springtime or not in New England. I'm Jeff Barz-Snell, the minister. We are glad you could take the time to join us today, wherever you happen to be. We strive to keep these services timely, engaging, and hopeful, with a little bit of something for everybody. We continue to miss the blessings of gathering here in person, to worship and give thanks, to be reminded of our best selves, and to come away renewed. Our service today is a combination of elements recorded here in our sanctuary and several other locations around the country. It will feature items from a service created and produced by the Unitarian Universalist Association, including a time for all ages and a sermon by the president of the UUA, the Reverend Susan Frederick Gray. There will also be a reading and a meditation from the Reverend Mariela Perez Simons, and a greeting by the Reverend Vale Weller, who is the Director of Congregational Giving for the Unitarian Universalist Association. The choral pieces shared today were performed at the All Souls Unitarian Church in Washington, D.C., under the direction of Jen Hayden. Today's service will hold up and celebrate the importance of trying to live up to our values as a people of an open-minded faith. Susan Frederick Gray reminds us that our churches and our faith communities need to be places that inspire us to be brave and dare us to grow our souls and err on the side of compassion as we do our part to foster understanding and decency in a world that is oh so very hungry for it. So the service today is a mix of sorts, a mix of segments with which you are familiar and a few items that will be new. We hope you enjoy it. Our hymn for this morning can be found in the order of service that was emailed out to all of you yesterday and is found on the online worship page of our website as well. Please rise up wherever you find yourself and join with us in singing or humming along a few verses of Be Thou My Vision. Thank you, Ben. Our chalice lighters for this day are Barbara and Bert Fullerton.
This morning we light our chalice in celebration of springtime and new life coming forth. We have waited through the long winter for the birds to migrate over many miles to nest in New England and start a new generation. This is a sign that there is a continuity of life in nature, and there are living creatures who depend on us to preserve the environment. The trees and plants are now starting to flower, and the buds and leaves are sprouting. The birds and butterflies flutter about. Spending time in the outdoors calms us and makes us aware again of the intricate web of life of which we are a part, and on which we all depend. We therefore light our chalice for new life and lives. Let this light remind us of our hope that we can and will find ways to live in harmony, not only with each other, but also with the natural world. We can and must find ways to live more lightly on this planet, our only home. We celebrate our connections to all of life and to all of you, even from a distance. Amen.
I'm joining you here from First Parish in Cambridge, and I want to thank the First Parish community and Reverend Adam Lawrence Dyer for offering their space to us. First Parish sits on the occupied land of the Massachusetts people. A community of the Massachusetts people still live in Massachusetts in the community of Canton. I have a story for you today. And there's two things that are important about this story. Number one, it's a true story. And number two, it's an anonymous story. So I read this story many years ago in Yes magazine, and the author of the story was listed only as Jane B. I love this story because it speaks to the fact that even in incredibly difficult circumstances, that the presence of love, that acts of generosity and hospitality really are life-saving. Here's Jane's story. Jane and her brother grew up in the 1940s in Hollywood, California, a town known for show business. Now, Jane says that she and her brother were adopted by their parents, not because their parents loved children, but because their parents thought it completed the image of the perfect Hollywood family. A beautiful home in Beverly Hills, a fleet of servants, 2 adorable children, and a little spaniel dog. Jane and her brother hardly ever saw their parents. They were largely raised by the housekeepers and nannies. It was only on Sunday when the whole family went to the country club. There, Jane and her brother were expected to be perfectly well behaved, not to run around or get dirty, to know which piece of silverware to use at every course, to be seen but not heard. They were taught to speak only when spoken to. Looking back, Jane said of herself, "I wasn't a real girl. I was a cardboard cutout of a girl." Jane's best memories from her childhood were when she was with her grandmother. And one day, her grandmother took her to a rummage sale in a church basement. Now, this was Hollywood, California. So this rummage sale was filled with costumes and fancy clothes that were from the movies or from movie stars. Jane's grandmother gave her $2, which was a lot of money at that time, and said, "Buy whatever you want." Well, Jane went home with 2 armfuls of things, and as soon as she got home, she ran straight up to her room with all of that loot, and she started trying things on. Finally, she settled on a little pink night dress, a big broad hat, white satin gloves, and every piece of costume jewelry that she bought. She looked at herself in the mirror, and Jane was awestruck. She looked like a different person. She decided to give herself a new name, Madame Modifus. Now, whereas Jane was quiet, Madame Modifus was bold. And whereas Jane was shy, Madame Modifus was flamboyant. And whereas Jane always did exactly as she was told, well, Madame Modifus, she had a mind of her own. Jane, all dressed up, ran down the stairs across the yard to the house next door and knocked on the door. When the mother next door and her little son opened the door, their jaws fell open. Jane said, "My name is Madame Modifus. May I come in for tea?" Well, the mother and her son, they welcomed Jane into their home. They played for hours, and then Jane went back to her house. Now, any time that Jane had a little bit of time to herself, she would get all dressed up and she would run to the neighbor's house, and they just came to call her Madame Modifus. Jane ends her story by sharing how she now is a grandmother, and that one of her favorite things to do is to visit her own grandchildren, and that whenever she goes to see them, they wait for her outside on the yard, and when she pulls into the driveway, they jump up and down and scream her name, Maudie, 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 the only name they've ever known her by.
Shall ever surely find
Thank you, Jeff and Ben. Our first reading for today is Psalm 133, the blessedness of unity. How very good and pleasant it is when kindred live together in unity. It is like the precious oil on the head, running down upon the beard, on the beard of Aaron, running down over the collar of his robes. It is like the dew of Hermon, which falls on the mountains of Zion. For there the Lord ordained his blessing, life evermore. Here ends the reading.
I would like to begin by acknowledging that I live in the traditional land of the people of the Three Fires. I am deeply honored and grateful to the land itself and to the people who have taken care of it for generations. And today I bring to you a quote from the process theologian Bernard Loomer, who says, by size, I mean the stature of a person's soul. I mean the range and depth of your love, your capacity for relationships. I mean the volume of life you can take into your own being and still maintain your integrity and individuality. The intensity and variety of outlook you can entertain in the unity of your being without feeling defensive or insecure. I mean the strength of your spirit to encourage others to become freer in the development of their diversity and their uniqueness. I mean the power to sustain more complex and enriching tensions. I mean the magnanimity of concern to provide conditions that enable others to increase in stature. End of quote. Of the hundreds of books I had to read for seminary, of the thousands of passages that I read and highlighted and marked, this one has stayed with me the most. From the moment I read that quote, I was like, that is it. That is it. Because since I came from Cuba in 1995, I have been in many liberal religious circles, and we had been having in those circles this amazing conversation about what was out there, amazing conversations about the meaning of life, but no one was talking about what goes on in here. At the core of our being, no one was talking about our humanity and the struggles that come with being human, as well as the delights. This quote was talking about these tensions inside of us, the expansion, the volume, the range, the depth, the complexities of our humanity. Shall I read that quote again? Let's read it again. Here it is. By size, I mean the stature of a person's soul, the range and depth of your love, your capacity for relationships. I mean the volume of life you can take into your own being and still maintain your integrity and individuality. The intensity and variety of outlook you can entertain in the unity of your own being without feeling defensive or insecure. I mean the strength of your spirit to encourage others to become freer in the development of their diversity and their uniqueness. I mean the power to sustain more complex and enriching tensions. I mean the magnanimity of concern to provide conditions that enable others to increase in stature.
Then a rainstorm came over me, and I felt my spirit break. I had lost all of my belief, you see. I realized my mistake, but time threw a prayer to me, and all around me became still. I need love, love's divine. Please forgive me now. I see that I've Give me love, love divine. Please forgive me now. I see that I've been blind. I need love. Love is what I need to help me know my name. Oh, I don't bend, don't break. Teach me how to live and promise me won't stay. Love, love is what I need to help me know my name. I need love, love divine. Please forgive me now. I see that I've been blind. Give me love. Love is what I need to help me know my name. I need love, love divine. Please forgive me now. I see that I've been blind. I need love, love is what I need to help me know my name. Oh, give me love, love divine. Please forgive me now. I see that I've been blind. Give me love, love is what I need. Love is what I need to help me. When I've walked to the end of my road, I've walked to the end of my road. Love, love, I need love. Love is what I need to help me know my name. And if you just love me, love will help me know my name.
Yes, love is what I need to know my name. These words from the artist's seal capture the meaning of our story today. The story of Jane and her discovery of her full self and her real name, Maudie. Jane's story captured my attention the first time I read it. Her words, "I wasn't a real girl. I was a cardboard cutout of a girl." They stayed with me. It's clear the trauma and the pain of her home life. And this isn't unique or even uncommon for children, for any of us. So many of us know these experiences in our home lives, in our work lives, or in the stifling cultural conditions of oppression that seek to make us small, quiet, invisible. Conditions that seek to rob us of our fullness. But then something happens for Jane. Through the love of her grandmother, the generous embrace of the neighbors, and a little bit of imagination, Jane's full self, Maudie, finds expression. The freedom she experiences is in moments. Those moments when she's able to steal away from her house and go to her neighbors. But it is enough. These small moments of joy and love in the midst of the neglect and the suffering, they are life-saving. Zora Neale Hurston writes, "Love makes your soul crawl out from its hiding place." And that is exactly what Maudie's soul does. She is loved into the fullness of her being. I hear echoes of my own story in this story. And maybe you do too. For me, in a time of tremendous difficulty in my life, my UU church was the neighbor's house, full of warmth and welcome, music and imagination. And the grandmother, that was my Sunday school teachers, whose love and care, coupled with joy and attention, it made a difference in my life when I most needed it. that congregation, that community, those teachers, they helped me find my voice, my spirit, my soul. They loved me into being. I imagine that you too have stories like this. How Unitarian Universalism, its theology, its people, its ministry changed you, saved your life, helped your soul crawl out of its hiding space. How it helped grow the size of your soul. As process theologian Bernard Loomer so powerfully describes, by size, I mean the stature of a person's soul, the range and depth of your love, your capacity for relationships. I mean the volume of life you can take into your being and still maintain your integrity and individuality. There's so much expansiveness and generosity in Loomer's definition of the size of your soul. And he goes on. He says, I mean the strength of your spirit to encourage others to become freer in the development in their diversity and uniqueness. I mean the magnanimity of concern to provide conditions that enable others to increase in stature. You see, Loomer is not just talking about individual growth and liberation. And this matters to us as Unitarian Universalists because our faith has never been solely about individual spiritual growth. As Unitarian Universalists, we understand salvation not as individual but collective. We recognize the fundamental interconnectedness, interdependence of all life and of humanity. Foundational to the core theological idea of interdependence is that mutuality and responsibility are inherent to who we are as human beings. We are not islands. And our tradition calls us not to individual freedom or transformation alone, but to the liberation and thriving of all people. One of the most important and successful campaigns within Unitarian Universalism over this past year was UU the Vote, a national effort for Unitarian Universalists to partner with local grassroots organizing and voting rights groups on an unprecedented voter engagement, voter registration, and voter turnout effort. It was the first ever effort like this on our part as a larger association, and it was awesome. But here's something you may not know about UU the Vote. When I first shared the idea for UU the Vote at the 2019 General Assembly, I didn't know if it would take hold. I was simply throwing out a seed of a dream, imagining there before thousands of you, congregational delegates at GA, I asked, what if we as UUs helped engage and mobilize 1 million people to vote in the 2020 election? When I said that, it was scary. It seemed impossible. And in fact, the next time I talked about UU the Vote at a local congregation, I reduced the number to 500,000. But before we'd even started to create the team and the infrastructure, when we were still just talking about this idea, congregational leaders, ministers, religious educators, and members were clamoring to volunteer. Financial gifts began coming in, some unsolicited. Folks were ready to say yes, ready to give generously of their time and resources because they knew that our values of justice and compassion, that our system of democracy, and the literal lives and well-being of our neighbors, of our loved ones, of each other were on the line and on the ballot. Thousands of people volunteered. Thousands of donors came forward from our congregations, many of you, and together we invested tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of hours and well over $1 million to vote love in the 2020 election. And in the end, we reached well over 3 million potential voters, far exceeding our wildest dreams. In what was the largest, most transparent and accessible election in our history, we UUs played a significant role. And we were likely the largest, most organized, faith-based, pro-democracy effort during the election. Wow. Imagination, generosity, commitment, collective action, these fueled UU the vote. But there was also some magic to it, because it recognized our strengths and it invited us more fully into who we are. For we are the people who show up. We are the people who work together in community. We are people who believe in democracy, who understand our faith as active, who are concerned about the conditions of justice here and now, and who, when it comes right down to it, are a hopeful people. We are a hopeful people about what is possible and about our agency and capacity to meet the challenges of our time. Some of the magic of UU the vote was that together we were loving each other into the fullness of who we are as Unitarian Universalists. But this isn't the end of the story. It is a reminder. It is a glimpse of what is possible when we say yes. When we say yes so generously and powerfully to what we believe in, to what we care about, to our ministries, our values, and when we choose solidarity, interdependence with wider networks of people working for justice, compassion, and liberation. From the beginning of my time as UUA president, I have said, this is no time for a casual faith, no time for a casual commitment to what you love most, and this is no time to go it alone. UU the vote is just one example of what it looks like to take our faith, our values, and our commitment to interdependence seriously. It is life-saving, life-changing ministry, individually in our own lives, and revolutionary when we bring that powerful yes out into the world. And this yes is what is needed so deeply in our communities and our world right now. To love our society, to love our world into a new place of being. In her important book, Caste, Isabel Wilkerson explores the conditions of racism, white supremacy, and racial hierarchy as an American caste system. And in her book, she quotes Gary Michael Tartikoff, an American scholar of castes, who says of the United States, "This is a civilization searching for its humanity. It dehumanized others in order to build its civilization, and now it needs to find its own." There's power in those words and that history. So how do we find our humanity as a society, as a country, as a civilization? The Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King said the key was love. By love, King did not mean a sentimental or romantic kind of love, but rather an overflowing, audacious, and unconditional love that sought the fullest unfolding of every person. King said this love might well be the salvation of our civilization. The only way that we overcome the forces of racism, domination, discrimination, dehumanization, the forces that are at the foundation of the United States, those forces that have the effect of dehumanizing our society. The only way we overcome those forces is to turn to the deepest source of our humanity. And as Unitarian Universalists, we know that that foundation, that source of our humanity, is our compassion and our interdependence, our mutuality and relationship and responsibility to each other. In other words, I would take Bernard Loomer's words and King's words and say, we need to grow the size of our love. And by size, as Loomer says, I mean the range and depth of your love, your capacity for relationships. I mean the volume of life you can take into your being. I mean the strength of your spirit to encourage others to become freer, to provide conditions that enable others to increase their stature, the size of their love and their soul. And this is where the real spiritual depth and calling of our faith lives, not just as an intellectual exercise, but as embodiment. Embodying and growing our capacity for this powerful form of love that encourages all of us to live into the fullness of our being and that is committed to the conditions that make this fullness possible for everyone. Compassion, interdependence. Looking back, the love of her grandmother, that trip to the church rummage sale, and the generous, inclusive embrace of her neighbors made a powerful difference to young Jane, to Maudie. Looking back, the warmth and magic of my UU church and the love and care of my Sunday school and youth leaders shaped my life and my calling in ways that I will always be grateful for and will never be able to repay. Looking back, UU the Vote became this incredible source of community, joy, and positive action in the midst of what was one of the most traumatic times in our lives. It drew us together in unprecedented ways and was a lifeline. And this is not the end of the story. It's just a glimpse, just a few stories to capture some of what is possible in all of our congregations when we say yes. When we say yes boldly, audaciously, powerfully to our values, to our spirits and our love, and to one another. These stories and more are happening all across our congregations. None of us will ever know all the difference that our generosity to our congregations has made to the lives of our children, our families, our elders, to the lives and conditions of our larger communities. We'll never know all the ways that we have helped make a difference. When we give boldly, generously, audaciously of our financial resources as we are able, we make our values and our ministry manifest in the world. When we give generously of our hearts and our care and our love to our children and families, elders and adults, young adults and youth, we change lives. We save lives. And when we dream big, as leaders and staff, about the impact we are called to make in the wider world, lives are changed. The material conditions of our communities can change. We are changed. We make it possible, loved into fullness, loved into being. May we keep saying yes, boldly, courageously, and lovingly to our values and our faith. May it be so.
Thank you, Susan Frederick Gray, for your touching and inspiring message this day. Wherever you find yourself right now, I invite you to join with me in a couple moments of prayer. Let us pray. Source of life, great mystery from which we arise and to which we must ultimately return. From beneath the clutter of our lives, we call upon you. It is not so much that we have chosen the lesser way as we have pursued little goods and lesser gods until we have lost our way. Our love has become narrow. Our excuses have become wide. Our blaming has become too quick. Our forgiveness too slow. And our gratitude too rare. O God, forgive us. By your mercy, deepen our longing into trust. Deepen our pride into compassion, our fear into courage, our frustration into creativity, our timidity into boldness, our prayers into actions, however small and simple. Then by your subversive power, multiply the loaves and the fishes of our actions. Dare us to be brave enough to be who we truly are in this world. For each one of your magnificent, needy multitude of the precious companion bumblers you have led with us to this day are guiding home to your kingdom and your possibilities for this world. And now, as is your tradition and inclination, I invite you to pray with me the way Jesus taught us to pray, saying, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, even as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
There are sacred moments, sparkling moments, when we answer the call to live out our values, and in so doing, bless the world beyond our imaginings. These powerful, sparkling moments are times when we are truly alive, when we feel and know and demonstrate our values because of the principles that have claimed us, because of this faith that we share, because we have been loved into being. It is time for the offering. This is a chance to give of your tangible energy to benefit the congregation which has nurtured and grown you, so that in turn it can be a powerful presence for future generations. This is an opportunity to make manifest generosity. This is an invitation to align resources and highest values. Susan Frederick Gray said, "The most important thing you can do for Unitarian Universalism is to generously support your congregation. It's transforming lives." Let us give now because our congregation is transforming lives and communities for the better. Let us give because we have been loved into being and because we want this same gift to be available to others. Let us give because we want generosity to be our response to the world. The offering will both be given and received with abundant gratitude.
You're broken down and tired of living life on a merry-go-round, and you can find the fighter, but I see it in you, so
out and move mountains.
Gonna walk it out and move mountains.
And I'll rise up, I'll rise like the day. I'll rise up, I'll rise unafraid. I'll rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. I'll rise up, I'll rise up, I'll rise up for you. You can have all the money in your hand, all the possessions anyone could ever have, but it's all worth its treasure. True worth is only measured by what you got in your heart. You can have everything, but what does it mean? It all means nothing. Don't rise up for something. You just can't talk the talk. You gotta live the talk. Yes, you do. It all means nothing. Don't rise up for something. Rise up for you, self-respect, dignity. If it's all that you've got, then it's all that you need. And without that, you don't have a thing. And it all means nothing. Don't rise up for something. Just can't talk the talk. You gotta live the talk. Yes, you do. And it all means nothing. Don't rise up for something. Rise up for you. Rise up, rise up, rise up, be strong for you. And I'll rise up for you. Rise up, rise up, rise up, be strong for you. And I'll rise up for you.
Thank you for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed the service and Susan Frederick Gray's message. We invite you to check out our upcoming gatherings and programs, including our fellowship hour that will be on Zoom at 11:30 a.m. today. This week, we will host our regular programs, including Knitters and Stitchers on Monday, and our Wednesday morning meditation program at 8:30 a.m. Also this coming Wednesday, our youth group will be meeting here at the church at 10 a.m. to do some baking with our youth coordinator, Robert Jones. Then that afternoon, our monthly group of volunteers will be here preparing a dinner to be served at the Bristol Lodge in Waltham. See the order of service in our newsletter for additional details. I also want to note several upcoming programs over the course of the next few weeks, including a program we are co-sponsoring on the regional benefits of offshore wind on Tuesday, April 27th, and a lecture on social media, misinformation, and democracy on Sunday afternoon, May 2nd. Even while operating remotely and at a distance, we find ways to make a difference and to reach out. That's what churches like ours do. And now I will let our guest worship leaders for today send us forth with a benediction and a good word. Thank you for being here.
Dear friends across time and space, as worship comes to a close, may we remember the strength and the beauty that can be found in our faith.
May we feel the power generated by the giving and receiving of gratitude and generosity in our lives.
May we feel ourselves held in the embrace of the covenant that we share and in the tender care of the larger community that has loved us into being.
Through it all, we are held by a love that will never let us go.
May we grow. May we expand. May we flourish. May it be so.
Dear ones, know that we have been held in love, even as we struggle with the holy work that is ours to do.
May we carry a song of love on our hearts as we embark on the work that lies ahead.
May we go out into our lives and into our days with peace, and may we give back love.
Hey Jacob, how should we do the editing today?
Max, the same way that we always do.
waste our time here.
I'm pretty sure they only say that about you.